This episode of Heroes of the Horn is brought to you by Mary Sedai of the Green Aja. Stepping out from behind a thatch-roofed house, Mo Gideon wondered idly where this little village was. Not the sort of place she would expect to see banners flying. The girl had been stronger than she thought.
Welcome to Heroes of the Horn, a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Sir Matt.
And I am Sir Ezra. Welcome to our Wheel of Time book club. The horn has sounded, and we have answered the call. Today we are covering The Fires of Heaven, Part 3, Chapters 17 through 25.
Yes, Ez, feels good always to get back into Randland. For us, I think a little bit of vacations. Ez, I feel like you have some news. You might just there's the fires are burning, the shadows,
Yeah, I've been I was trying to think of a good Wheel of Time. Here's a good one, right? So there are neither beginnings nor are there endings, right, to the Wheel of Time, but this is a beginning for Sir Ezra. All right, this is a beginning, meaning that the school year has ended. And I am not returning. Like, Sir Ezra is forging a new path. And I don't know, man. I'm going to make some content. I'm going to try to make some more content. I'm going to try to, get a job that is a little less stressful, maybe, than the one that I had. I'm pursuing other things that I'll disclose later. But, I mean, kind of, got a lot going on. And I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. I hinted at it in our group, and I've hinted at it on other podcasting projects. But Ez is just making some pretty big, major life changes. So hopefully that's a good thing for the podcasting world, and that's a good thing for the projects that we run, and we're able to kind of do some more fun stuff, get creative, and we'll kind of see how that goes. But overall, needed a change and needed to just kind of. I feel like I've talked to a lot of people who. Whether it's the pandemic or it's just in general, maybe it's this time of life for me or whatever, the season of life, but sometimes you just need to mix things up, or you need to, something comes across, or you come across something in life that is so important that it takes you down a whole nother course. And I feel like that's sort of what's happening to me, and I'm happy for it, and we'll see kind of where it goes. But that has been sort of the ending to the school year has been tough. It is not easy, Sir Matt, to run. I believe I am on 4, if not 4.5 different podcasting projects, and to grade papers, reply to emails to parents, teach full time, and do all the things that we need to do. So it's just like, now that's my own problem because I, decided to jump into all these different projects, but it's what I like doing. I'm passionate about it. I'd rather,
hey man,
educate in the pot. Yeah,
that's
right.
That's what we're here for, as to live your dream. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Hopefully someday I will be there as well. Maybe if this Dogecoin or AMC stock just keep skyrocketing, I'll be right there with you.
Could you imagine? Wow.
That'd be great. So. Yeah. So no, that's super cool. It's gonna be awesome. As I'm gonna be cranking out a lot more content. Go ahead.
You also just got back from vacay too, so we had Memorial Day weekend.
California.
Man. Like, how was that?
California. I went to. It was cool. It was fun. We saw some friends in Well, they live in Lemoore, California, which is, I think it's like an hour south of Fresno. First of all. The plane we had to take to get there. Okay.
Yeah.
It was like you ever been on the small planes where it's like 2 seats and 2 seats?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then you have like an aisle.
Yeah.
Like sometimes
small.
Like from Columbus to Orlando is like that, where it's smaller plane, not like the big ones. Okay, this one was like that, but it didn't have like the turbines. It had like 2 propellers.
No, it did not. No, it did not.
I
You're
was like, I don't
joking
know
me.
about this, man. I'm not joking.
That's like
I
I've
was
seen
like,
these in cartoons.
I don't know. I was like, I don't know if it can jump and how many pedals this thing's jumped, but
Wow.
yeah. Yeah,
That
so we got there. It was
yeah.
fun. We went to we hung out. We went to Sequoia National Park, which is pretty cool. Had
Yeah,
another
yeah.
national park to my list.
Nice.
Did not see any sequoia trees. You got to go like further up the mountain to do that, but it was pretty cool. Gonna go to
Yeah.
add another I've never been to Fresno, so boom, add it to the list. So that was that was cool. So
Nice.
yeah, so we just got back from vacation there. So anyway, let's get to some news. As first, let's talk about a little bit about some podcasting news. So guys, the Apple Podcasts, which is the majority of listeners, I think it's roughly 70% of the people that listen on Apple Podcast. They are getting ready to sort of update their player to where you can do sort of subscriptions through there. And so not all of the details are released exactly yet. And it was supposed to be out like this week, but it got pushed back. So we have to wait and see. But just know that for you guys who are like, I want to support the podcast, I'd love to get like Patreon content, but I don't want to like go to Patreon to do it. Well, we still have to wait and see what everything seems like. But it seems like you might be able to get Patreon content on Apple Podcasts, which would be a lot easier for a lot of other people and stuff like that. So stay tuned. There's a lot of news for it. We still have to kind of see, but just stay tuned for that, because I think if it turns out to be what they're kind of saying is, I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, well, and so a lot of people who follow this project also follow our other stuff and know that, like, the cool thing about that is you can combine projects, you know, and you can give people kind of like this one subscription, boom, gets you into these different, you know, our channel essentially of our network of podcasts, which I think would be pretty freaking awesome. So yeah, I'm
exactly
user friendly and all that good stuff. So we'll see. We'll keep you guys informed. If that happens, we'll let you know and we'll get right on it, because it's a really, really cool option. And honestly, it helps. What we like doing is recording podcast and making audio content and video content. So we're more than happy to go do more, you know, of that kind of stuff to really, you know, I don't know, create a better, cooler atmosphere, or educate, or go more into kind of tutorials on the Wheel of Time or whatever it might be. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I have not had time to do. That's sort of my big thing, is I haven't had time to do it. So there's an incentive with the Apple, you know, podcasting news, and then also me kind of switching gears here. So all of that is cool, and I would love to kind of keep doing that, keep growing our community, and keep having a great time here on Heroes of the Horn. So
absolutely. All right, so now let's get to some Wheel of Time news. So we talked about this on a YouTube video, but we haven't talked about it on the podcast, and that is there was a Q&A by Rafe Jutkins, and they're basically, and we don't have to go into all of it here on the podcast, but they went through it and they sort of answered a lot of questions about the show, just sort of big stuff that we'd all been kind of, you know, thinking about. What's it going to look like? Where is it going to, what's it going to go? Costuming, just a lot of, they always do these kinds of things. And I think you and I we've been shifting around upon what we kind of think season one's going to be and where it's going to go. And I think now you and I are back to where we were originally, before we were tainted by the dark ones who were on the internet, who were telling us it's going to be all book 1 and 2. And now I'm thinking, no, it's not. It's going to be its own thing.
It's its own thing. Yeah, he was really clear about that book by book, you know, kind of adaptation. No, he kept saying over and over, it's a series adaptation, meaning it's inspired by, essentially. That's the way I looked at it. I was reading it more and more as if it's like inspired by, with the characters, they'll be there. And the reason we say that so much is Logain, flat out. Like I think the whole Logain story,
it's the obvious one.
Yeah, it's pushed way forward, and they're obviously doing a lot more with it earlier. We're in book 5. And we haven't even got to what I think are some of the
Logan just started.
Yeah. Yes. So that's going to be way different. So, yeah. We'll
Yeah. He did say that somebody asked him a question on a character. He said, what's one character who season 2, by the way, I guess we can say this has been greenlit. We kind of already knew that, but now it's like season 2 is like in production. Like season 2's in production, which is cool.
Right.
But he said, this is one of the questions was, what's one character that you wish was in season 1, but we won't show up until season 2? And all he said was, it starts with an EL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, my thought is that's either Elida, probably not.
Yeah.
I think it's Elaine.
Elaine. Yeah. Yeah. So, Camelin, Camelin's going to look a lot different. I mean, we either not going to see the royal family. They're going to be hinted at. Like, we're going to know that they're there. But the weird thing to me would be that we would maybe see Avienda before we saw Elaine. And I was like, that's because he hinted at there being an Aiel. And actually,
we might not even go to Camelin.
Yeah, we might not. We might not.
What if we pick up Logain like along the way? And it's like him traveling with them.
Logain's traveling with the crew. Could you, dude?
From the get-go.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, too, I think we will see the wars. I think there's going to be another point of view, which is maybe we're going to see Logain talking about. What would be interesting is if you want to sell Moiraine more as like a villain, someone we can't really trust. Well, she's an Aes Sedai. What we could see is Logain talking about the Red Aja coming or using him or setting him up or just trying to confront him, and they're going to kill this man. You either make him like a villain or you make the Aes Sedai out to be kind of villainous, and then Tom Merrilin the whole time is kind of, Rand and the Emmons Fielders are like, yeah, Moiraine, I don't know if we should really trust you or not. And we, the audience, are watching Logain just get tortured and tormented captured by the Red Aja. I mean,
I'm starting to think like basically the way he kind of said it, the way I feel about this now is I feel like gloves are off and we're going to do what we have to do to get this thing done.
Yeah.
And to make it all work. I'm even thinking now, what if Logain isn't stilled when we meet him or gentled, right? What if he isn't gentled when we meet him? And then season 1 is a lot of Moiraine thinking, well, maybe Logain is the dragon, or is it? And then it's revealed at the end. No, it's the end of season 1's no, it's not Logain. It's Rand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I don't even think we're going to Camelin season 1 now. I don't even think we're going. Because he talks about some of the things he talks about filming locations. Well, we only have there's a budget. We can't do everything. They said Tom's coat is not going to change colors. All of these things. You guys got to scale this down. This is TV. We cannot do anything and everything, and we have to sort of make this work. I mean, Min to me seems like she's going to be a much bigger part of season 1.
Yeah, and I actually sent him for the Q&A. I actually sent him a question. He did not choose mine to answer, mine was about Camelin.
He didn't choose mine either.
Yeah, I said, are we going to hear the battle cry forward the White Lion, right? The White Lion of Andor or the White Lion on the red flag. Are we going to hear that, see that? Nada. Doesn't touch it. Not touching any of the Camelin stuff. We're not going there. Why? I mean,
I asked him if he's a dark friend since his light was literally put out in Survivor. And he didn't respond. So...
Let me ask you a question. What if, and by the way, before I say this, please know we're totally just kidding, and we're trying to just be a little bit funny, and right. It is what it is. Entertainment. All right. What if Rafe is just like, you know what? There are neither beginnings nor are there endings to the turning of the wheel of time, but this is a beginning. And it's his beginning, and it's Rafe's beginning, and he says, "I'm gonna do this the way I want to do it." Good God, could you imagine if he just came in there and this is the way the Wheel of Time should have been? It's not. There's tons of people looking in on this, but it's it has to be adapted, Sir Matt. It cannot be the same as the books, and the sequence of events are going to be different, and you have to think about the larger audience and what's going to thrill them and what's going to keep them captivated to watch the entire season. If they know out the gate that Rand is just the guy and it's just whatever, there's no hints and there's no I don't know. You want the viewer to be picking up on clues and theorizing and saying, oh, you know, what could be happening without going to the books and having it spoiled. And I think there's going to be stuff that book readers are going to be like, okay, he's doing some different stuff here, and we might not have this, you know. Like you said, maybe he's not stilled. Never even thought about that. But what if you just don't still Logain? I mean,
he might not be. He really might not be.
Or gentle, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Right, gentle, yeah. Same thing, yeah. People are like, well, it's not the same thing. But you know what I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, the Reddit released, on Reddit, there was somebody compiled all of the leaked, anything that's ever been leaked by the whole thing. Any of the leaked photos and stuff like that. And I pulled it up on Google Drive. It's like 200 photos of like leaked stuff.
Nothing of Caitlyn.
Yeah.
No Caitlyn leaks.
Here, let me. Can I screen share here?
Yeah, I think you can.
So you can see. You gotta enable it here.
Oh, here, okay.
And I can show you some of this.
Yeah. So it's probably all Fall Dara and stuff like that, I'm guessing, right? You know?
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Wow, man. Why don't you just give me a second here, you know?
Yeah, well, it's like a guy I'm like clicking the windows on the car. Like, hey, let me
Good Lord.
There we go. Okay. So here are so maybe for those of you guys who are watching this, but so there's like pictures of, like, here's the way gates.
Now that's not like cheesy cow. Guys,
that looks sweet.
I do remember when the Waygates first came out and they showed those, and yeah, this is somebody who's went up to them and.
I mean, unless that's just something that just is out there. Is that like an actual thing, or do they make that?
No, they made because they got the green screen behind it too.
Yeah, that looks cool. That looks super cool.
Right.
So we know we're going through a Waygate season 1, obviously, right?
Yep.
Which is okay. We know we're going through the ways,
and that doesn't look like it's in Camelin, does it?
I mean, no, it looks like it's out in the woods. So I think we're definitely going to get through. We're definitely getting through the Eye of the World. I think we're going to be somewhere in the Great Hunt. Is where, you know, I think we're going to be through. Now I think we were talking with Sir Jimmy. He actually had a really good idea of where he said he thought of where he thought season 1 would end. He said he thought it would end with like them getting it would, like, Egwene's story would end with her getting like captured.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's like
the mountain range and
like filming somewhere in the mountains.
Well, like everything seems to be them on the road, outdoors, traveling. Shadar Logoth, we got the concept art for that. Like you're kind of right. We didn't get anything for. I think we're only in Camelin just for a little bit. We're working towards it. I think they bypass it. And you're probably right. They go straight to Faldara yeah.
So here's the Blight.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So. Let's see. Is there anything else here super cool? A lot of this is like. See, some of this is like might be. It's like
Tarvalin? Really?
Yeah, but that one was never official. The Tinkers thing we kind of knew because we saw the concept art for it.
Yeah.
And so there was like a photo of it. So we know we're going to see the Tinkers season 1.
Okay.
But that was a concept art we covered. Like, you wouldn't do concept art if you're not going to do it. Evans Field, there's definitely a lot of cool stuff here. Again, we know this. We've even already seen actual footage of it, and obviously it's going to be where they start. But just kind of cool to see.
Yeah. So to me, like, you have to kind of build up the home that you're fighting for, and like the Shire, if you will. So Emmons Field, I'm fine if they spend more time there, or even we get like an episode or 2 of them there learning about like Logain. We flash over to Logain fighting with the Red Aja and being taken in or whatever. But then they've got tons of. Oh, they're totally doing the Elias Golden Eyes.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna see wolves. The White Cloak was stuff that we had seen.
Yeah. Man, and
I think their armor looks awesome. It's definitely going to be unique. Like the whole armor and everything in this show is going to be unique.
Guys, Matt has literally downloaded absolutely all of the leaks here.
I found it. Oh man, we're on like the whole deal. I mean,
Tar and Ferry, they're saying
that's Brandon Sanderson on set, man. So that's what
Yeah.
people think. That doesn't mean
Matt, that's it, right? That's
that
the
it is.
That's the crossing. That's
I know.
I mean, there's a Drakkar following, man. You know, like it's crazy. I can't believe you're showing all this right now. People are gonna be like, "What the?"
They're probably gonna get taken out. Yeah, see, some of this stuff they don't know. You know, they think, oh, here's just so some of these are like places they knew it was filming. That we don't know that it's going to be used in a scene or whatever. We just know that they're filming in places, you know, around here. So you kind of just, you know, come up. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, right? It's like, you know,
Sure.
you think like, well, we know they're filming in Croatia. We get to see like, oh, this is probably going to be what King's Landing looks like. Same type of thing here. So,
Yeah.
you know, some unknown villages and farms.
Wow.
You know, cool. It's cool. It's,
Yeah.
it's all sort of a cool aesthetic. It was all on Reddit, by the way. All of those. There's like it leads you to somebody's Google Drive, and you can. I was like, well, I'm gonna have to get that link, but
Yeah, let's get that. I have not.
There's nothing in here. There's nothing in here that is like gets me anywhere to where I think, you know, that because again, I think most of the stuff was before they finished. So I don't think we've seen any footage or any leaks of that like final little bit. So, you know, it just comes down to ultimately where do we think it's going to go? I think it's going to be middle of the Great Hunt, which is where I was at the beginning. I think we're going to get to the middle of the Great Hunt.
Yeah. I mean, move us forward quickly and get us into more characters or whatever. I think that's fine. Also, too, I think it's even hard to say like middle of the Great Hunt when like storylines for Logain that happened in book 5 are going to be happening maybe earlier. You know what I mean? Like all of this traveling, him going to
there might be
the
new
tower.
spring stuff.
Yeah, exactly. They're bringing it all kind of together. Like it's just crazy. You could see a character who is really important much later, and some characters I can't even mention to Sir Matt right now that are later on that you might reference. You might list them off here and in season 1. Who knows with the script and everything.
And that's not even to say that there won't be Eye of the World stuff in season 2, right? Yeah. Hey, I think we can take this scene and adapt it here.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, it is a daunting task. Crazy. So, Rafe, we appreciate you for it. Your light needs to shine on, my friend. So, it can't go out on this show. It cannot go out. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Well, with that, do we have anything before we start the reread? The read, I get the chapter says.
Yeah, just I want to give a shout out here. Like to do this from time to time. So just a shout out to we have a new patron, Sir David, who just signed up the other day and said, "Hey guys, just finished the Eye of the World for the first time, listening to the podcast, love it, and got a lot of catching up to do, but enjoys the discussions and is ready for the extended edition and keeping up." So I just want to give him a shout out and say thanks to all of our patrons for supporting us over there and helping out the podcast. We really do appreciate it, and we'll post the extended edition. And actually, we have a ton of chapters today, so we're probably going to pick something to follow up on in extended edition. We'll see with that. We kind of just naturally figure that out as we dive through these chapters. So, but that's it, man. I'm ready.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, today we're talking about 17 through 25. So I think it's like 19 is like a long chapter. The rest are all pretty short. But so we have 17 heading west, 18 a Hound of Darkness, 19 Memories, this is the long one, 20 the Jangai Pass, 21 the Gift of a Blade, 22 Bird Calls by Night, 23 the Fifth I Give You, 24 A Message Sent, and 25 Dreams of Galad. So let's go back here to 17. Heading west. So Elaine and Nynaeve sneak out of the Light of Truth and head west in the direction of Luca's menagerie. After 5 miles, Tom and Julian catch up, and the Gleeman tells the woman he has learned that Pedro Nile is trying to unite the nations against Rand.
Yeah. So, and he is, you know, he's trying to unite them against Rand, and the White Cloaks are just, dude, a menagerie, right? So this, it's a collection of captive animals, exotic, kept for display, kind of zoo-like, kind of circus-like. I just thought this was interesting that this is in here, and you get some pretty crazy things as we follow through with Luca, and we learn about what everyone has to kind of do in Remember, he was kind of slighted by Nynaeve as he needed some money or whatever, and was a bit slighted. Later on, they're going to catch up with him here in this chapter, and he's paid a large amount of money just to kind of take them in for hiding so they can hide in with this group of people and try to blend in. But to blend in, they've got to be like a part of the show. So I don't know. What would you, Matt, we're out and about. What's your talent, man? What do we have to do to get in the menagerie?
What's up? Was Robert Jordan just on some sort of kick when he was writing this book? Like, we're just going to have all of our characters try to get and become part of like like on stage or something. Because we saw Suwan do the same thing.
Oh yeah. They have these talents. Yeah, exactly. It is a way to kind of. It's the pattern. It's pushing them forward. I think a lot of us. Here's something. Maybe this was his thought, right? A lot of us have talents. Like a lot of us can sing, or maybe we could play an instrument if we tried, or we could. We have talents. We just don't. You're never put in a situation where you're like, okay, now I have to do this. Like I have to. So it's kind of fun to watch these characters roll in here and say, okay, to blend in, what are you good at? I can throw knives. Like everyone's pulling out like Elaine is gonna have to come up with something, right? And she's been trained and I don't know, probably been tutored in a lot of different things in Gamelin, and then Nynaeve, what? You're gonna just heal people, or what's the deal? You're gonna
braid hair.
Braid hair? Braid hair.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll
tug. She's really good at tugging on her
braid. Yeah. So anyway, it is just kind of funny, and I thought to myself, like, what would my talent be? If I were, what would be my show?
You can play banjo.
Yeah, I could play the banjo a little bit. I could get up there and maybe
you can play the viola.
Yeah, I play the fiddle a little bit. I guess I would do that. Maybe I'm just a gleeman. Maybe I'm a gleeman and I don't really know it, because we like telling stories and we enjoy kind of like talking,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's Tom. Tom's just good old storyteller, and I can't juggle. I can't do that. Nor can I throw knives.
A few card tricks.
I do know some card tricks. I know some really good card tricks. Actually, you've seen them. Yeah. So. Okay. All right. Yeah.
I'm not good. I am not good at card tricks. I can play guitar, so I guess that'd be my thing.
Yeah. Would you work with any of the animals? Is that not?
Oh, I don't know, man. Animals freak me out.
They scare me too. I'm just like, some of them are huge. They're just huge.
I've said for years, I don't like horses. Not that I'm like, oh, horses. They freak me out, man. Especially draft horses. Those things are like huge. Elephants. They're just enormous.
Huge. They would just barely brush you. Like just.
Can you imagine getting kicked by one? You'd be dead.
Just knock you over. Yeah. I'm with you, man. I rode a horse one time.
You'd be
one time, and it was in control. There was nothing I could do. It was just guiding me wherever I was. His name was Diener. Right. I'll never forget Diener. I almost got lost in a national park. It was crazy. So, yeah.
Wow.
Anyway,
we do have on our Game of Thrones podcast. We did set up what we think is going to be an impossible patron stretch goal if we hit like 3,000 patrons as American Joust. So we would have to ride horses in the event that happens.
That'll be the end of the podcast right there. One of us will be dead.
That'll be the end. That'll be the end of all of it. Yeah, we'll be dead. We will be dead. Okay. Let's move on here to chapter 18, A Hound in the Darkness. So again, a lot of these chapters were short. They're like 20 minutes.
Yep.
And as you have to stop me, because I think you were sort of going over the summaries.
Yeah.
You pull them from Tarvalin Library, and I think there was one or two that had some things where you were like,
spoiler.
"Oh, man, not supposed to know that yet," because sometimes just the way they read it. So just stop me if you think I'm going to say something.
I think you're good on this one. Yep,
is spoiler. Okay, so A Hound in the Darkness. So Liandrin returns to Joran Areen's house in Amador to find someone waiting for her with the other Black Sisters. That someone, it turns out, is no less than Mogadin. Liandrin thinks of competing against her at first, but after a lesson from Mogadin, she quickly changes her mind. Mogadin assigns 6 of the 11 Black Sisters different tasks without letting the others know of it. The 5 remaining ones, Liandrin, Chesmal, Asne, Tamale, and Eldrith, are set to find Nynaeve and take her to Mogadin.
Yeah, some of these, by the way, we're going to get into some of these names even in this that are, yeah, I have to go back and hear it in the audiobook again. There's so many. But
Right.
yeah, we're in with the Black Aja. And so we've got Leandrin, Mogideon, and our 10 kind of remaining black sisters that are around Leandrin. And we just sort of get to see Leandrin try and challenge Mogadine, and it doesn't go well, right? She's extremely powerful. She's forsaken for a reason, and it just doesn't go well. Because the rest of them, as she comes in, like the rest of them are already kind of fallen in line. Let's see. So Mogideon, did not know who headed the Black Aja. It was a revelation. Mogideon did not know everything. Leandrin had always imagined the Forsaken as close to omnipotent, something far beyond ordinary mortals. Perhaps the woman truly was in flight from the other Forsaken, so they kind of believe maybe she's even on the run. And we've started to learn from Moraine and from Rand that the Forsaken are not like this, cohesive group. They actually do have their own kind of agendas and might be working even against each other. So that's something to keep your eye on, I guess. So let's see. So with that thought, I think this is where Leandrin kind of thinks like, okay, maybe I can overpower her in some way. Great mistress, we serve the great Lord as you do. We also were promised eternal life and power when the great Lord Do you think that you are my equal, little sister? Mogideon grimaced in disgust. Did you stand in the pit of doom to dedicate your soul to the great Lord? Did you taste the sweetness of victory at Paradisen or the bitter ashes at Ashardon? You are barely a trained puppy. So, she's basically kind of scolding them for even thinking that they are in the same category as the Forsaken. And a lot of them do this, and they harken back to the Age of Legends and what it was like to be summoned and to be before the, I'll call him the Dark Lord, the Dark One, and to be there in the pit of doom to be bound to him, essentially. So, yeah, pretty radical.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about Leandrin here. It's kind of interesting too to think about, because one of the things is that she finds out is she ends up sort of finding out like what's going on, right? At the tower.
Yeah.
And she's like finding out for the first time that Elida is now Armelyn's seat because they're gone, right? They're not there when they're out.
Yeah. The information who do you
Right.
Yeah, how does that get to the Black Aja? Who's communicating? And that was something that Leandrin is figuring out, is that she's not all knowing. She doesn't know everything that's going on. Yeah.
Right. Do you think that if Leandrin had been at the White Tower, that Elida would be Amerlin's seat, or do you think Leandrin would be?
I think Elida would have been, because I think Leandrin is, I believe, and I am not sure, I think she's younger, and I think Elida was just more in a greater position of power and influence because of her position next to Morghese in Camelin. But it's interesting. There is I kind of almost need to say read and find out about Leandrin and the Black Aja and their influence,
right?
Because
Obviously,
the tower.
Yeah, because I think as we just sort of view, I think at this point we just sort of view Elida as like evil because she deposed Suan, right? But it's like, well, Leandrin is also that, just different objectives, different sort of thing. So it's just kind of interesting to think too. It's almost like, wow, if she had been there, what would have happened?
Yeah, it is. They each kind of have their tasks. So, okay, something interesting too with this chapter, even though it's small, I think it's important to talk a little bit about Mogideon and the Black Aja and what they're doing. I think she binds them. She stops up their ears and so they can't hear each other. If you remember the Dark Friends Social and the Great Hunt, each individual learned their task. They all were assigned something to do, like hunt down this person, kill this person will show up, and when this happens, you do this. So Moghedien is kind of doing that with these Black Aja members. She's giving them instructions and saying, here's what I want you to do. Liandrin is the one who comes in here and tries to presume that she can still be in control and still almost challenge Moghedien. So yeah, and it doesn't go well. I'm gonna read this actually. I want to see. So just because, you know, this is one of the Black Aja, supposedly pretty powerful individuals, you know, who can't challenge her. So she's already begging her forgiveness. I presumed I am but a worm beneath your feet. I beg you as one who would be your faithful hound for the mercy. For mercy on this wretched dog. Moghedien's eyes dropped to her cup, and in a flash, while the words were still tumbling from her mouth, Liandrin embraced the source and channeled, seeking the crack that must be in the Forsaken's confidence, the crack that was in everyone's facade of strength. Even as Liandrin lashed out, the light of Saidar surrounded the other woman, and pain enveloped Liandrin. She crumpled to the carpet, trying to howl, but agony. But she was beyond that. Anything she had ever known silenced her gaping mouth. So her eyes were going to burst from her head. Her skin was going to peel away in strips. For an eternity she thrashed, and when it vanished, as suddenly as it had begun, all she could do was lie there shuddering and weeping, open-mouthed. So like serious pain, not a good idea. And I think others maybe, I don't know if they tried this or she just whipped him into shape, but yeah, Moghedien is not having any of it, and this is, I think, the last person she needed to confront to make sure they're all kind of in line here. So, yeah. Yeah. Do you begin to see? That was very good, but next time a little stronger. You're not quick enough, Liandrin. You are not strong enough. You do not know enough. That pitiful little thing you tried against me, would you like to see what it's really like? Oh, and actually, I'm sorry. I should emphasize here. Liandrin was trying to basically compel her in a sense. She was trying to kind of use some of her old tricks, if you will. She said something she kind of knew and learned when she was younger. Liandrin gazed at her adoringly, crawled across the floor, pushed words through the sobs. She still could not stop. Forgive me, great mistress, this magnificent woman, like a star in the heavens, a comet above all kings and queens in wonder. So once you start thinking like that, you've basically been compelled, right? She all of a sudden, it's not like I'm just doing this out of fear and pain and agony. No, she actually wants to. She is just like compulsion is on her. She likens her to stars in the heavens, this great comet, an individual who's above all kings and queens. Forgive me, please, she begged, pressing kisses against the hem of Moghedien's skirt as she babbled. Forgive me, I am a dog, a worm. It shamed her to her core that she had not meant those things before. They were true. Before this woman, they were all true. Let me serve you, great mistress. Allow me to serve you, please, please. And then she references someone named Grendel. So another one of the Forsaken. I am not Grendel, meaning I'm not going to take in servants and not, turn you into something that it's, I don't know. She's not going to take her in and treat her, I guess, the way that she's referencing here is, I don't know, best way to put it. And yeah, eventually she releases her from that, but keeps her kind of, now she's trained her, now she showed her power and showed her what she can do. And Liandrin is, going to do what Moghedien wants. So,
yeah.
It's just kind of a moment of power that's really impressive.
I just pulled up because I wanted to see just what she looked like. So I pulled up in the wiki. I don't really try to go too far in the wiki because it's all, spoiler
danger
stuff.
Danger.
But it's super danger. You have the companion book, right? The white.
I have
book?
the white.
I have the black one. The black one. The black one is the encyclopedia.
Yes.
So there's a power scale in that book.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all power
and it shows
scale.
You who's.
But
it
I
shows
don't.
It's ranks them by power.
Yes, it does. Yes, and that's where the wiki gets it from. The wiki will power scale them. It'll compare them based upon what was written in the text and reference books.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense because it's like ++1, -2. It's like all over. It's like to see how it's sort of explained is like, because it's like, well, this is what it used to be, and now it's been up here and stuff like that. So,
And I don't really know
it's
it.
pretty crazy. But Mogideon is no slouch. By the way,
no slouch. Yeah, and remember,
by the way,
Nynaeve bested her.
Slouch. She is right. Yeah. So without sort of spoiling anything anything I don't think that is pretty obvious, says that Mogideon is on the scale. There's obviously some people she's behind, but she is like, of the Forsaken, she's like in the second highest tier of the Forsaken.
Yeah.
And and of the female Forsaken, there's only 2 above her.
Yeah. Well, and so what's interesting is, and don't mention those 2, okay? Because I think what's cool for people,
I think one of them is incredibly obvious.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you've people who you start to realize the individuals who. Let me give you something else though, right? So what Robert Jordan does that is amazing. It's not just straight power on power. It's tactics. It's alliances, which is great, and then also the dream world. Access to Tel'aran'rhiod is really important, and who can control it. Like, you see the wise ones all the time telling Egwene it's dangerous. We don't understand it. It's not a place we should be. We see Elaine in this batch of chapters talking to Brigida Silverbow, right? So who's that, and how do you access some of that power? Like, knowledge is also really important, and artifacts. You could have an Angreal, Saw-Angreal, Terra-Angreal, something that would magnify your power or give you access to something else, and that's important too. So it makes it so
it's really
complex.
Interesting. Actually, do you care if I read a little bit of this? This is actually really interesting.
Yeah,
just in sort of.
I don't think I've ever seen it really. So yeah.
So he's. Right. So yeah. So the wiki here. This is just the scale. So not without sort of looking at anything. This doesn't really spoil anything. As you said, there's other things to take into consideration too. It's not just like, this isn't necessarily who would win in a fight, because it's sort of, right. Like Rand versus Egwene in a sword fight. Well, okay, Rand's gonna win. Like some random guy versus. A blade master versus anyone who's not trained in a sword, regardless of how much they have in the one power. If you take the one power out of it, well, that's gonna. He says that he basically created this scale so that he could keep track, but it's mostly for lesser characters, because he says that, the main ones are pretty obvious to him.
Okay.
Yeah, and he kind of goes on to talk here a little bit. This is from Robert Jordan. He goes on to talk here a little bit about like men versus women, and it's actually like something that I kind of thought about, where it's sort of like, it seems like men have maybe a higher cap, like on their power, but it's mostly because they're not necessarily as trained in it. So it's more likely that they would do something reckless, as opposed to a woman who's trained as an Aes Sedai. That because they're so trained in it, they're never really going to super overexert themselves. They're going to do everything within like balance. It's interesting. It's really interesting. Yeah. But
yeah, I think I found it here.
Mogideon, man. I mean, she's towards the top. I mean,
yeah. Powerful. Yeah, I can almost hear Master Yoda.
She's above quite a bit of other Forsaken, not even just the female ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also it depends on what your talent is too. So that's something else as well. Some of them will know weaves that, like, it's not even just like how much of the power can you pull, but what can you use it for? Like, what type of weave? Are you binding people with air, distorting earth? Are you using compulsion? Yeah, there's a lot of different things that I think go into that as well. So yeah. Yep. That's a cool power. We should do that as like almost like a spoiler thing, and we can talk more about some of that. I'll kind of all of them. It's a 21 it's like 21 levels or whatever, but yeah, they've got all the different
Technically, it's 72 because it's been changed over time. Actually, it's more than that. It's
oh my
73,
god.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like 78. It's like
Wow.
78 points because it's been changed over time. It was a 21 point scale, but it's since been. But not everyone is sort of on that list. But he jumps at some points, so you can kind of see like some people aren't in a position. But really interesting stuff just to kind of take a look at and just sort of see like, wow, okay, this is how powerful
I've never really seen this.
Somebody becomes. I mean, you know, they're all pretty obvious to me, I think. Even, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing I would say that's in half these characters. I don't even know who they are yet, but so interesting stuff here.
Cool.
So
okay.
yeah, I mean, it just when you think about some of these characters that we run into, like a Mogadine, you know, because the Forsaken, they show up so sort of infrequently,
Right.
except for like Lanfear, who shows up all the time.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, wait, who is this person again? Like, what's their deal? What's going on?
Yep.
Like,
Yep. Yeah.
why
No.
are they important? How big of a deal are they?
What I'm telling you, this is when I was first reading this, like there's such good repetition that you do learn more about the Forsaken over time. But some of them that are mentioned, like right now, Rand, when we get to his chapters, he's mentioning Samael. And is he being baited into an attack? And you're like, wait a second, where is Samael again? Like where was he at? And who did we defeat back when we were down in Tyr and Ilion and all this kind of stuff? So yeah, it is good to kind of do a Forsaken refresher and keep track of them, because that's the whole point. Is Robert Jordan doesn't want you to be, you know, he lulls you into almost like, you know, follow the dark friends. Here's Podon Fane, and then, oh yeah, I'm gonna step in one of the Forsaken that you've heard about, and here we go.
Right.
So
there's 13 of them. We kill 2 to start, and you're like, they show up and then they're dead within like one chapter. Like,
yeah.
Who are those guys again?
Yeah. Oh gosh. All right. Yeah, that's good. That was good. That was a good little additional more on Mogadine. Memories. Let's get into memories here. Chapter 19.
Let's go to memories. So this was chapter 19. So maybe this wasn't the super long one here, but memories. Okay, so Morghese is in her room. Guardsman Lieutenant Martin Talanvor tells her of a rebellion in the two Talanvor. Tells her of a rebellion in the 2 rivers. Someone has raised the banners of Manetheren. Of course, we know who that is. That would be Perrin. Lord Gabriel has already been informed, which he actually should not have been, and has waved it aside as a minor problem that has to be dealt with when he has got time. Morghese is enraged to hear this and goes to confront him, just to find him surrounded by lords and ladies who had opposed her during the succession. She wants to talk to him about the matters in the 2 rivers, but he uses compulsion to send her away. Morghese can think somewhat clearer. She realizes she is in the pensioners' quarters and goes to Lini. The old nursemaid opens her eyes about Gabriel, and Morghese decides to reestablish her rule somewhere out of Camelin. She sends Lini to fetch Talanvor and asks him about loyalty and about people in the palace. They all swore their loyalty to the law and to the throne of Andor, but not to the queen. But Talanvor knows a man loyal to his queen. Morghese and Lini slip out of the palace to meet Talanvor again at the queen's blessing stableyard. There they get to know Basil Gill.
Yeah, he's back.
He's always back, man. Longwyn Dorn and Brienne Taborn, who have more or less decided to follow her. Talanvor suggests riding for Core Springs to get Garth Bryn on their side.
Let's go. Why was this guy ever sent away? I mean, he's the general. He's there in the beginning. He's like this protector. This whole bit, I know there's a Podon Fane tidbit coming up here in a second, but first, let me just, I have it pulled up here, okay? So, rebellion, my queen, he said in a flat tone. And all thought of anger and stares vanished. So she's actually just looking at Talanvor, and he's staring at her in a way that, like, you know, basically, so he rose, face angry, eyes burning on her before they dropped again. She looked where he had been staring and blushed. So she looked where he had been staring and blushed. Her dress was cut extremely low. But, Sir Matt, Gabriel liked her to wear them so. So with that thought, she ceased fretting about being nearly naked in front of one of her officers. Just reading the text. Just reading what's in front of us.
Just
here.
read it.
So, be brief. How dare you? Then she has this thought. How dare he look at me in that manner? I should have him flogged. Her face is darkening, and then it's the rebellion that kind of pulls her out. Like, oh, wait a second, this guy's here telling me something super serious, and he's actually a little bit pissed that she's not taking him serious and that she's let so much go by. And you start to gather that Morghese has not really been on her A game here, and something's going on, and she's missing things. The Two Rivers, my queen, someone has raised the old banner of Manetheren, the Red Eagle. A messenger came from Whitebridge this morning. So she decides, okay, has Lord Gabriel been informed? Of course he had not. He would have come to her with the news. That's what she thinks. Like, he would have came here and told this instead of Talanvor coming. But he has, my queen. He laughed. He said the Two Rivers seemed to throw up trouble, and he would have to do something about it one day. He said this minor annoyance would have to wait its turn behind more important matters. As she goes in to kind of confront Gabriel, she realizes that all of her old kind of, not enemies, but opponents to her succession of the throne are there with him. Like, people who were her supporters are not there anymore. So, she asked the question, like, she thinks this, what could Lord Gabriel be thinking to actually bring them there, like to bring them here? So she has that thought. Now she says, let's see, right in front of everyone else, I want to speak with you concerning the Two Rivers, Gabriel, in private. It has been dealt with, my dear, he said idly, dabbling his fingers in the water. Other matters concern me now. I thought you were going to read during the heat of the day. You should return to your room until the evening's coolness, such as it is. My dear, he had called her my dear in front of these interlopers, as much as she thrilled to hear that on his lips when they were alone. Alenia was hiding her mouth. I think not, Lord Gabriel, Morghese said coldly. You will come with me now, and these others will be out of the palace before I return, or I will exile them from Camelin completely. Now at that, suddenly he was on his feet, a big man towering over her. She seemed unable to look at anything but his dark eyes. Her skin tingled as if an icy wind was blowing through the courtyard. You will go and wait for me, Morghese. His voice was a distant roar, filling her ears. I have dealt with all that needs dealing with. I will come to you this evening. You will go now. You will go. She had one hand lifted to open the door of her sitting room before she realized where she was. What had happened? Had he told her to go? Had she gone? Staring at the door in horror, she could see the smirks on the men's faces, open laughter on some of the women's. What has happened to me? How could I become so besotted with any man? She still felt the urge to enter and wait for him. Dazed, right? She forces herself to turn and think about this and walk away and go in a different direction. So it takes extreme effort for her to get away and do her own thing. So I wanted to read that because it's pretty clear what is happening. We just had an example of it in the previous chapter. So yeah, that's just something to kind of consider, that she is losing track of time, Sir Matt, as she walks through Camelin, and as she is being ordered around. Talanvor knows it. Her loyal subjects are being sent away. What the heck's going on here? So yeah.
Okay. So put on Fane's part, right? So that's where we go next. So put on Fane sneaks about the dark corridors of the White Tower. He unlocks a warded door and to an old storeroom where the dagger from Shadar Logoth is kept. The urge to be complete pulls him towards it. An accepted on duty enters the room and immediately gets a slice across her cheek by Fane. He puts his head out the door to see if the corridors are still empty. He sees the accepted dying painfully. Alvarin slips in and binds Fane with air, but after some small talk, she lets him go, unsure of his position among the Dark Friends. Then he heads for his followers that are waiting outside Tarvalin. So Padan Fane now has the dagger back in his possession.
Yes.
And it straight up kills this girl. And it's just a cut on the cheek.
Terrible stuff. Like the way it kills her is pretty bad. Let me see if there's a description of that, but it's not good. It is not good at all. And all Viren comes in there and is able to bind him and speak with him. Let's see. Yeah, the young woman lay thrashing on the floor, trying and failing to scream. Her hands clawed at a face already black and bloated beyond recognition. The dark swelling oozing down onto her shoulders like thick oil. Her snowy skirts, banded in colors at the hem, flailed as her feet scrabbled uselessly. This is going to be dark. The show is going to be dark, all right? There's going to be some, he licked at the splash of blood on her hand and giggled as he picked up the sheath. You are a fool. He spun, dagger reaching, but the air around him seemed to turn solid, encasing him from neck to sole, to the sole of his boots. He hung there on the balls of his feet. Boom, we have Alvier in here, who's basically bound him with air. Do you really think, the Aes Sedai went on, that there would be no guard on the door, no watch kept? A ward was set on that lock. That young fool's task tonight was to monitor it. She had done as she was supposed to. Had she have done as she was supposed to, you would have found a dozen warders and as many Aes Sedai outside this door now. She is paying the price for her stupidity. So, here we go. I wanted to make sure some of these sometimes I forget, like the summary doesn't give you everything. So sometimes I forget like when they reveal certain things, the thrashing behind him stilled, his eyes narrowed. Alviren was not yellow Aja, but even so, she could have made an attempt to heal the young woman, and she had not raised the alarm. The accepted should have either, or she would not now be here alone. You are Black Aja, he whispered. A dangerous accusation, she said calmly. It was not clear to which of them it was dangerous for. Swan Sanche tried to claim the Black Aja was real when she was under the question. She begged to tell us. She begged to tell us of them. Elida would not hear it and will not. Tales of the Black Aja are a vile slander against the tower. And then he says in a louder voice, you are Black Aja. And she replies with, you want to steal that? And then they talk about the dagger a bit. He says, I could dispose of Elida for you. One touch of this and even healing will not save her. You could be the first in the tower, not second. She laughed at him. Do you think I would not be first if I had wished it? Second suits me. Let Elida claim credit for what she calls success and sweat for her failures too. I know where the power lies. Now answer my questions. Or two corpses will be found here in the morning instead of one. And yeah, so she just puts him to the question. They talk about Shel Ghul, Thakandar, and so on. Really, she's trying to get to the bottom of who he is a bit. Who are you? Why are you here? Did one of the four, the chosen, send you? Why was I not informed? He threw back his head and laughed. Are the tasks given to the likes of me for the likes of you to be knowing? And his accent keeps changing, right? Isn't that weird about Padan Fane? His accent keeps, shifting in and out. Do the chosen confide everything in you?
Everything's always changed about it too. Like,
yeah.
Remember earlier when it's like Ordi more,
Oh yeah,
struggling between it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. He's definitely, he's just, he's hard to figure out. And I think that's a good thing right now. And we'll leave it at that. So anyways, he says, be careful, pretty little Aes Sedai, or they'll be giving you to a murderer for its sport. So she's trying to get ahead of herself here, no more than maybe she should be allowed to. Her glare was icicle stabbing his eyes. We shall see, Master Fane. I will clear away this mess you have made, and then we shall see which of us stands higher with the chosen. Eyeing the dagger, she backed from the room, air around him It didn't soften until she had completely gone. Let's see. Sheathing the dagger, he nicked himself and licked the wound. So he nicked himself with the dagger. Mind you, he said one nick of that dagger, you couldn't be healed from it. He had been a dark friend once, but he was beyond that now. Beyond it, above it, something different, something more. If she managed to communicate with one of the Forsaken before he could dispose of her, better not to try. No time to find the Horn of Valir now. There were followers awaiting him outside the city. They should still be waiting. He had put fear into them. He hoped some of the humans were still alive. And there we go. So, he says Althor was out there somewhere. He was whole again. So, Pot Unfeigned, I just think there's some important things to emphasize here, that Alviarin is not who we thought. So you asked earlier, what if Leandrin was there? Would she have been raised? She might have done what Alviarin does here, which is to come in second and say, yeah, let's let Elida do her thing. She's more likely.
I'll wait. I'll bide my time.
Right, exactly. Being second to power is also, you're right there, Nick. You can influence that person, that kind of thing, but got to keep her eye on Alviarin. So, yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next chapter. Chapter 20, the Jangai Pass. Again, so now we get back to a handful of short chapters here.
Right.
Rand leads his group to the Jangai Pass toward the town of Tain, ignoring Moraine, who tries to lecture him. As they approach Tain, they can see that the dead bodies are hanging outside the walls. 3 survivors walk up to Rand and tell him that this was the work of the Shido who passed through 6 days ago. Remember, Rand is sort of tracking down the Shido clan. They also have a message from Couladin saying that he will do worse to Rand than the people on the walls. After hearing that there are more than 100 survivors, Rand tells the Aiel to see that they are fed and well treated. He wants to take them along to the other side of the spine of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really this one, you get just some background on why Couladin and the Shido are so, what's the word? I mean, they're bad. They're bad. I mean, along what they do to the Cairhienin and what they do to this region, it's not good. And Rand is really not happy about it and didn't even really realize that there was this village here. Rand is talking, and I'll read this part because it is kind of interesting. They call the Cairhienin tree killers because of King Laman and him cutting down the Avendasora sapling. So Rand drew a deep breath. He had known this might be a large problem as Couladin, or he had known this might be as large a problem as Couladin in its own way. Nearly 500 years ago, the Aiel had presented Cairhien with a sapling, a cutting from Avendasora, and with it a right granted to no other nation to trade across the threefold land to Shara. So you always mention Shara on that map, way over there on the right.
Yeah.
Right. So the Cairhienin,
and we've heard about it a couple times now.
Exactly. Yes. And so now we're here, and that's the thing, right? We've heard about it kind of since the beginning, the far east, the far lands of Shara, and the Cairhienin were allowed to trade there because they had this kind of alliance. They had given, so they had given no reason. They did not like Wetlanders very much at the best, but to the Aiel, it had been required by Giotto. During the long years of journey that had brought them to the waste, only one people had not attacked them. Only one had allowed them water uncontested when the world grew parched. And finally, they had found the descendants of those people, the Cairhienin. So it was the Cairhienin, as you remember, you go back through and you see the history of the Aiel people, you realize, okay, they were once more like the Tinkers. The way of the leaf was important to them, and they abandoned that and so on. And it's, but it was the Cairhienin who gave them shelter and helped them along. So they give them the Avendasora sapling. Well, their king cuts it down, makes a throne. They go to, this is where the Aiel War comes in, and they go and they fight a whole war. And the war was simply to get to the king to kill him. The tree killer. Yeah. I don't think they really, it was more like an assassination, but he was a king and he had an army that was going to protect him, so now there's a war. But yeah. So that's really what this is about. Some of the context to that, and why Couladin is acting the way he's acting with these people. So, yeah.
Yeah, because he's a coward. And he's gonna get wrecked.
Yeah.
Okay, chapter 21, the gift of a blade. So the camp quickly arises around Rand. Moraine and Land are seeing to the wagons of Kadir. The Aiel are cutting down the corpses left by the Shido, and the Gaishain are erecting the Wise One's tents. Avienda and Egwene are riding double on Mist. They approach Rand and tell him what happened in Tyene. They tell him it's not his fault. Rand agrees. He didn't even know there was a town here until Ruark mentioned it a couple days ago. Rand catches part of a conversation between them about him, and he thinks that they are definitely spending too much time together. Dismounting, Rand searches for Osmodian. He tells the Forsaken he is too tired for a discussion today. Rand tells him to go to his tent and expects to see him in the morning. Osmodian asks if Rand suddenly trusts him when he fails to ward Osmodian's tent. Rand says he trusts the man until he betrays him, and that Rand will bury him the moment he does.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He also says that it is Rand al'Thor speaking. He immediately regrets that last comment. No need to hint at the voice in his head in front of the Forsaken. Probably good idea on that one, Rand.
Yep.
His tent is being put up by a number of Gaishain under Avienda's direction. In the meantime, Rand sets a ward around the camp that will warn them if any shadow spawn enter. The Aiel will have to watch for human enemies. Avienda shows him a dangerous blood snake she killed with her belt knife. Rand tells her she shouldn't do dangerous things like that and should kill it with the power. Avienda replies that using the power too often is just dangerous. When they settle in the tent, Avienda offers him a sword, carefully wrapped in a blanket, so she does not have to touch it. She hopes it will cancel the debt she owes him. Initially, Rand wants to refuse the gift and says there is no debt. The sword is gaudy at best anyway, until he notices the heron marks on the blade. It turns out the sword belonged to Lamon, the tree killer, and the blade was made with the power. The sheath and hilt he doesn't accept, but he tells her the blade will cancel the debt. He will have another sheath and hilt made. Over dinner, which turns out to be stew containing the blood snake, they discuss Bail and Melane's marriage. Rand is still unclear on Aiel customs concerning sister wives and marriage in general. When they get ready for bed, Rand asks what it means if a maiden teaches a man to sing. Avienda is amused by this question and guessed Rand is thinking of Matt. She tells him that sometimes a man will allow himself to take Gaishain to be with a maiden. The first thing these men, fools, according to Avienda, are taught is to sing. Aiel are strange people, and the maidens are the strangest of all. Rand sets a ward on his dreams and goes to sleep. He dreams of Min, Elaine, and Avienda and an Aiel wedding.
Yeah, I would just jump right to that. I mean, here it is. So he's hearing Avienda slow breathing in that tent. It's loud in his ears until he fell asleep, and then he dreamed a confused dream of Min and Elaine helping him throw Avienda, wearing nothing but that necklace, over his shoulder, while she beat him over the head with these blossoms, which are basically Aiel kind of custom blossoms. Yeah, so he's having a real kind of crazy dream there with all three of those girls. The sword I think is kind of cool, like King Layman's sword. Like Avienda brings it to, remember, they won't touch a sword. They're very anti that. Rand is leading them and does practice the sword and practices the forms with Lan. So yeah, like when Avienda brings that sword in, it's wrapped up in a blanket. And yes, it's been kind of passed down. It was proof that Layman was dead. It was his very own sword. And he basically says, hopefully he can he didn't want all the glamorous kind of gems and rubies and all that kind of stuff, but it's power wrought. It's a power wrought sword like his old one, like Tam's sword, and like Matt's Ashendara. So yeah, this is kind of a short chapter on that and customs. Aiel customs, which I still don't understand all their customs. So
I mean, how many times have you read the series and you know?
The Aiel have never. I don't know, man. I'm just not as. I don't know. They're confusing to me.
They're going to be simplified for the show, which will be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chapter 22, Bird Calls by Night. So it's a two-parter here. So we start off with Matt. Melindra is massaging Matt's back. She seems to think he is short, even though he would be of more than average height in most countries. Melindara seems to think he is destined for great glory and wants to know why he puts himself in the shadow of Rand. Matt doesn't listen to her. Again, Matt wants to know if Daughter of the Nine Moons means something to her. Of course, it doesn't. Just as she asks who or what she is. Matt hears the call of a Two Rivers bird, a warning from the ward Rand set. Struggling into some of his clothes, he grabs his staff and stumbles outside. Trollocs are already in the camp, but by no means enough to overrun the defenses. Matt slays several Trollocs. He sees humans among the attackers too, shouting Samael and the Golden Bees. Matt has to pay attention to a fade. The Aiel will have to deal with the humans, crying out an old Manetheren war cry as he attacks and kills the Fade. When the Fade is dying, he sees the battle is over. A pointless attack. Melindra says he dances well. He's as tall as any man needs to be, in her opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is fun.
Matt kills a Fade. No big deal.
No big deal. Kills a Fade. No big deal. No slouch. This guy. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal, actually. I remember when we were reading through this, I was kind of like, did we catch that? Like, that's a big deal. So Melindra, though, is all the Aiel are tall, and she talks about Matt's height and her being he's tall himself, but she's taller. Yeah, she kind of says like you shouldn't be in Rand's shadow. Like maybe you're a man who deserves more honor. Are you kind of cool with being in his shadow? I mean, yes, he's the Karakarn, but maybe you're meant for more things and greater things. Yeah, he's almost kind of convinced that she's, for a hot second, Daughter of the Nine Moons, and she's told him multiple times, no, I'm not the Daughter of the Nine Moons. And he's like, if you're lying to me, I swear I will welt your rump. And then hands on her on hips, she looked down at him dangerously. Do you think you can welt my rump, Matt Cawthon? I'll give it my best try. She would probably put a spear through his ribs. Do you swear you've never heard of the Daughter of the Nine Moons? I never had, she said slowly. Who is she? Or what? Lie down and let me, and then boom, you get the red wing kind of bird call that comes in. So anyways, it's kind of funny. There's just everything with Matt is a little bit like, teasing with this girl back and forth. Yeah. So yeah, that he kills a Fade.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Class vintage Matt.
Yeah. Yes. People love Matt. I do too, just because he's funny. He feels real sometimes. I feel like, he has some rude humor that it's playful, and people, sometimes it does get a little, Robert Jordan does get a little carried away in this series with some of that, but it's, I just say, take it lighthearted. Oh, the big thing too was during this attack, Samael is cried out. Right, so his name is cried out. Like these people are. It's basically, I think they're trying to hint that this is his attack. You know what I mean? And Rand is. Right. And I think it's in the next chapter, is thinking, hey, I'm not so sure that I wasn't. Like this might not actually be Samael. It might be someone else, or maybe it's a double. Yeah, switcherooski here. They're trying to fake him out or something. So.
All right, let's move to the next part here, which is Rand's point of view. So the bird call wakes Rand immediately. He sees a Sidene and runs outside. He sees people running towards the battle at the edge of a camp. Then he spots Avienda and a Drakkar. Carefully, he uses balefire to destroy. Yeah. Didn't Moraine just say, "Hey,
balefire, guys.
You can't just use balefire, man."
I know. Yeah, and they don't care. I mean, Rand just does what he wants. He's a dragon. If he doesn't use much of it, it's okay. All right, he just uses a little tiny prick, and boom, Drakkar's gone.
Well, what if he'd hit Avienda? I mean, come on, man.
Oh, jeez. Don't even think about it.
Gosh. Anyway, Avienda turns around, and a stream of fire shoots towards Rand. He just has time to throw himself out of the way. Angry, he demands to know what that was about. Aviendha tells him that the next time he can deal with the matter himself. Rand turns around and sees the remains of another Drakkar burning. He tries to apologize, but to no avail. The Wise Ones and Egwene come running to his tent. They feel the channeling drew them. Egwene immediately sees Rand has upset Aviendha again and doesn't hide her disapproval. The Wise Ones see they are not needed here and turn around. Lan and Moraine check on him as well. Moraine warns him not to think the obvious reason for the attack is the right one. Then they both retire as well. Rand goes to check on Osmodian, who wisely stayed out of the fighting. He agrees with Moraine that it might not have been Samael. Rand replies he's been baited like this before by Samael before realizing that he is talking about the Age of Legends. He did give himself away this time. They discuss it a little longer without reaching a conclusion. When Rand returns to his tent, the maidens who should have guarded him are ashamed by the incident and offer him their spears. Rand is just glad they didn't get hurt and adds that if they want to meet their toe, they should talk to the Wise Ones. They can no doubt come up with a better solution than he can. With that, he ducks inside his tent and goes to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has a weird.
Yeah, Rand slipping a little bit here.
Yeah. I mean, he's under attack. So something that happens, and I guess that's a kind of a cool part to this is, let's see. Yeah, so it's not like Samael to throw men away, Osmodian said. So they have this discussion. He and Osmodian are talking about the tactics of Samael. But he'll see 10,000 dead, or 10 times that, if it gains him what he thinks is worth the cost. Maybe one of the others wants you to think it was him. So maybe one of the others, meaning the Chosen, maybe one of the Forsaken. Did I just say the Chosen? Of my own free will? What the heck? Bunch of dark friends up in here. Even if the Aiel took prisoners, Trollocs do not think much of, they don't think much besides just killing. And dark friends believe what they're told. It was him. He tried to bait me into attacking him once in the same way. Light, the thought drifted across the surface of the void. I said me. So he says, it was him. He tried to bait me into attacking him once in the same way at Sarandahar, which is, I believe, he did not know where I'm probably saying it wrong, Sarandahar had been or anything, but he had said the words. The words had just come out. After a long silence, Osmodian said quietly, I never knew that. What I want to know is why. So the slip up there is he's referencing when he fought Samael back during the Age of Legends. That's the kind of slip up. Osmodian's like, oh, who am I talking to? Am I talking to Rand, or am I talking to,
I'm talking to Luce Theron.
Yeah. So, that's a pretty big slip up. And then he's choosing now his words carefully, but he remembered Samael's face, a man, not mine, not my memory, a compact man with a short yellow beard. Osmodian had described all of the Forsaken, but he knew this image was not made from that description. Samael had always wanted to be taller and resented it, that the power could not make him so. Osmodian had never told him that. So he has a thought about Samael wanting to be taller and resenting that the power can't make him so, but where did he learn that from? Not Osmodian. Osmodian didn't tell him that. So he's definitely having these thoughts where it's like, okay, someone else is in my head telling me things that I didn't know, shouldn't know. So, yeah, just a tidbit there.
Yeah. Well, Rand, at the end of the day, still just going to do what he wants. So, I mean, he uses balefire in this.
That's true. Yep. All right.
But, eventually we'll get to everybody hating Rand for some reason. So,
Yeah, what the heck? Yeah, I don't. I never did. Never will.
Never did. Okay. All right. Chapter 23, The Fifth I Give You. After 4 days of travel through the Jangai Pass, the Aiel clans following Rand reach Cairhien. The dry land is still a moist paradise for the Aiel, many of whom stop to gape at the streams crossing the land. Moraine is busy fuzzing over Kadir and his wagons. Egwene still doesn't understand what is so important about them, but Moraine won't tell her. She can make out a couple of maidens carrying dolls among the group guarding Rand. She tries to find out what that means, but beyond a reminder, the maidens are not children. Nobody wants to tell her. Every time she thinks she understands Aiel ways, something shows up to show she doesn't. Couladin left a grim reminder of his passage through the past behind. He razed the town of Salan to the ground, impaling many of the inhabitants. They found no survivors. Rand is surrounded by a group of clan chiefs and wise ones. He makes it clear that he means to save Cairhien, not ruin it. The Aiel can take the customary fifth, as long as it is not food, but no more than that. Rand will have anybody who takes more hanged. The clan chiefs don't understand why he takes pity on the tree killers, but it looks like they will obey. Egwene approves of the order if only Rand wasn't so arrogant about it. Egwene offers Aviendha to ride with her for a bit, but she wants to walk. She wants to talk. Aviendha refuses to ride, though Egwene dismounts. Aviendha is still very upset with Rand. She is finally at the point where she asks Egwene to talk to the wise ones about not having to share his tent anymore. Sorelia, the most strong-willed wise one Egwene has met so far, overhears them. She sends the other wise ones off so she can have a talk with Egwene and Aviendha. She makes it very clear that Aviendha will obey the wise ones. Nobody will talk Aviendha out of doing her duty. She is disappointed to hear Rand didn't take an interest in Aviendha after all. She tells Aviendha she knows a more suitable husband for her, though. Aviendha meekly promises to look at him. Then Sorelia turns to Egwene and asks if Rand will hang even a clan chief if they break the rules. Egwene isn't sure, but she thinks he might. She adds he can be made to see reason. Sorelia says she thinks he needs to be hard with them if he wants to lead them. She approves of the way he handled it. With that, she leaves. After the wise one is out of earshot, Egwene offers to talk to the wise ones anyway, but Aviendha says Giotto requires she obeys. She says Egwene doesn't understand and she can't explain. Aviendha will not touch the subject anymore. Yep. Aviendha's just tired of Rand. She's been, they've been trying to force this thing upon her, and now she might get to go see somebody else, I think, maybe to marry. But this goes back to what we were saying here, is like, it seems like the wise ones are kind of being like, hey, Aviendha, why don't you go sleep in Rand's tent? Let's just
it's pretty straightforward. It
was pretty straightforward. Now it's even more,
Right. So yeah, here's the thing. Remember, who does Rand belong to? He belongs to Elaine, according to Aviendha.
Does he though?
That's what Aviendha says. Yeah. So, that's the crazy thing. I think he's just the
men got there first.
Wow, here we go. Let the debates, I don't know. Moiraine got there first, if we're being honest, right? Whoa.
Well, technically, he and Egwene were supposed to be a thing.
They were promised. What's going on here? Yeah. So anyway, my whole point.
Is that an arranged marriage?
Yeah. Well, kind of. But yeah, so the thing is, Aviendha is just distraught. She tried to cancel her debt, whatever that debt was, right, between she and Rand. It's just basically the way he's been treating her. He's kind of doesn't even realize what he's done and how he's almost essentially courted her, or even I don't know. She wants to, and I still don't even. Someone can actually probably help me with that, which is what is the, the debt between them necessarily. I know it's sort of these gestures and things that Rand has kind of missteps he's made in regards to her culture and their beliefs, and then she's also not been able to accomplish. She's in a pickle here. She's not able to accomplish what the wise ones want her to because, well, Elaine is who's promised to him and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just a messy situation really, and she's dealing with it the best way that she can. To me, what was cool is the reference to Moiraine and Kadir's wagons and her fussing over that. And Moiraine used to be the focus, and Moiraine has drifted to the back seat here. Rand doesn't listen. She's acting differently. Egwene can't get information from Moiraine on the wagons. Why they're so important with all of the stuff, from the city. All the Tirangrial, So, yeah, that's pretty much it for that chapter.
Okay. Well, let's move. Almost 2 left here. So let's get to chapter 24. A message sent. Egwene is glad when her tent is set up that evening so she can retire. She spends some time reading a book she borrowed from Avienda. It's a collection of heroic and romantic tales. Now that she feels, not that she feels like reading much tonight, but she is going to meet Nynaeve in the world of dreams, and it isn't night yet in Amadisia. Reading can't keep her awake though. She falls asleep with the book under her cheek. With a start, Egwene realizes she is in the Stone of Tears. She suspects she is fast asleep in the real world, so she doesn't want to step out of the dream. She might not be able to return. To her surprise, she sees Elaine in the stone. She is talking to a woman who looks like Birgitte Silverbow. Before she can decide if it is her imagination, Bear and Amish show up. They want to know if she has decided to come early. Egwene explains about falling asleep. Luckily for her, the Wise Ones believe her. The Wise Ones, however, are displeased to see Elaine in the world of dreams already. She is little more than an untrained child to them. Elaine points out that she is not their pupil, but is grateful for their concern nonetheless. I mean, look at Elaine already playing it, pretty. Okay,
yeah.
Here I can the politics of it.
Right. Yep. Navigates
right.
it.
Egwene wants to know why Elaine is here instead of Nynaeve. Elaine explains to Nynaeve how Nynaeve got into a fight with one of the other members of the menagerie, and is now nursing a sore head. Egwene is not amused and tells Elaine to tell Nynaeve to hold her temper. Like, that will work. She also gives a hint that she wants to talk to Elaine alone later. Did the daughter heir understand? They quickly exchange news. Elaine isn't ready to leave the menagerie yet. Nynaeve still doesn't know where the Blues are gathering, and they are learning a lot about the Shan-Chan from Couladin. The Wise Ones don't understand their interest in the Shan-Chan. They fled after Rand defeated them at Falma. Elaine says that doesn't mean they won't come back. Egwene tells her they have moved into Cairhien with the Shido still several days ahead, heading to the capital. They have been spotted by the Cairhien, but that was unavoidable. When the exchange is complete, Egwene watches the Wise Ones leave the world of dreams to get some real sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the big takeaway for me in this is that Egwene's fear of the Shan-Chan comes back, and her capture and her captivity, really, and her being leashed and forced to do whatever the Shan-Chan want her to do, like to use the power in a destructive way and as a weapon. And so she's asking, basically they're with the menagerie and they come across a Shan-Chan, and they, Elaine says, yeah, we put the Suldam on her and we're good. She's not Damani. You put the Adam on what would be maybe a Suldam, and just to check to see if they are. So a Suldam is what actually wears the Adam that's on a Damani, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's really the big takeaway there. And then there was this look between the two of them, like, I'm not really gonna go back. Like, maybe we should check on this more and meet up a little bit later, possibly. She's still kind of sneaking around behind the Wise Ones' backs here a bit.
I mean, who are the Wise Ones to say that Elaine shouldn't be in there?
I mean, they don't, it seems like they know more about it. It's a dangerous place.
Than the Aes Sedai?
Well, She's not technically an Aes Sedai, so she's, Elaine is even though she's faking it right now. Also, that's the other thing, right? I mean, they're all brand new. I mean, they act like Egwene is right now pretending to be a full Aes Sedai with the Wise Ones, and she's being told, no, you don't know diddly squat about this. So yeah, it's dangerous, man.
Yeah, everybody just thinks they know. Everybody just thinks they know it better than everybody else. I mean, she's also the daughter heir. Actually,
Matt, what you just said right there, and people who are veteran readers of the Wheel of Time series, everyone thinks that they know what to do better than everyone else. That is literally what this whole series is about. Like, no, I know. No, I know.
It totally is.
Yeah. No, these people know. Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. Yeah, that's, I mean, for
It's
me,
great. It's
that's
great.
pretty much it for that. And then I think the next one is actually it's the second part. It's Egwene following up and going into the Dream of Galad.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So Dreams of Galad here. So Egwene floats in the darkness for a moment when she is sure the wise ones took their own advice and went to sleep. She forms an image of her novice room in the White Tower. Cautiously, she looks into the corridor and sees the door of Elaine's room opening. She did get the message. Egwene wants to know about Birgette or Birgetta. Or Brigitte.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Right. But Elaine refuses to tell her anything. She has made a promise not to. She asks Egwene to trust her on this. Reluctantly, Egwene agrees. For now, Elaine wants to know how Rand is. Egwene tells her that he is unhurt, but he is getting a bigger head every day. Elaine says she sees why he threatened the clan chiefs the way he did. He must be able to dispense justice without favors. But she agrees he needs to remember he is only a man too. Egwene asks if the fight Nynaeve got into won't cause any problems. Elaine tells her Nynaeve apologized for it, and once again stresses the message she gave Elaine earlier. Elaine notes Egwene has changed. She says Egwene will become Amyrlin's seat one day. With that, she leaves. Egwene isn't ready to go yet. She goes to Elyda's study to see if she can find out how things are in the tower. Most of the reports speak of failure. Bashir's army is still missing. There are no reports from Tanchico. Nal is calling the White Cloaks to Amador, but no one knows why. Rand's location is unknown. The agent who left Elaine and Nynaeve escape is to be punished. It seems Elyda is making plans to build a palace as well. When Egwene moves into Keeper's study, she runs into Galad. He looks more beautiful than any man has the right to. He asks her to go with him for a walk, but Leanne interrupts them. Angry at herself for almost letting herself get caught in her own dream, Egwene jumps to the two rivers. She runs into Galad again. They are married this time, and he carries their son. From the corner of her eyes, she sees the red eagle and the red wolf head banners. No, this isn't right. Screaming, Egwene flees Teleron Riyadh. And then we can kind of shift here, just go to the final part of it. Mogadine watches the girl flee. She has the remarkable strength in the world of dreams. It would have been nice to trap her here. Sharing the place with Lanfear is bad enough, but she doesn't really interest Mogadine. Nynaeve, Elaine, and Birgette do. Those she is after for ruining her plans. She will find them and punish them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I wanted to just bring up, I guess, in this part, so Egwene kind of, she's doing her normal thing, right? Which is just, she goes back into the dream world and she stays there and tries to go to the Amyrlin study to look at the notes, to see what's there, to figure out there's something that she can kind of learn about what's going on. And as she's walking in, the way it's written is, let's see. Oh, here we go. So she, so hurrying out of the antechamber, she was about to reach for the neat pile of scrolls and parchment with some seals on the keeper's writing table when the room seemed to flicker. Flicker, flicker, flicker. You know, like that's something we see whenever Robert Jordan wants to show us something where either the power is being used or something suspicious is happening or you're caught in a trap, like this happened, I think, when Rand enters that room. Bless you. When Rand enters that room with the Murdral, there's like flickering and there's like time seems to stop and things happen. So just the word flicker is something he uses to indicate something's going on. And it's a dream, caught up in her own dream here. And she does say, yeah, Galad is just beautiful to her. She says here, like her face heated. She certainly did not love him or even like him very much. He was beautiful. And in those dreams, he had been much more what she could have wished. It was his brother Gawain that she dreamed of more often, but that was just silly. Whatever Elaine said, he had never made any feelings known to her. So she's thinking and dreaming more about Gawain than she is Galad. But Galad happens to be the more beautiful, prettier of the two. So, yeah. And as you said, yes, so she is Mogideon, or you said Mogadine. By the way, you could say it either way. I've heard people say it both ways. all the time. The actual readers,
I think I go back and forth.
I go back and forth too, and that's why sometimes when I'm pausing, I'm actually just like, oh wait,
I think it is Mogadin though. I think Mogadin is what they say now that I'm really thinking about it. I think it's Mogadin.
Yeah, but people say Mogideon as well too. So like, I've heard it both.
Do they?
ways. Yeah, the readers of the audiobook, they read it both ways. I've heard both readers read it both ways, and I'm like, what?
Oh, okay.
The heck? So anyway, but yeah, that's pretty much it for that. I mean, that's where we are. And I think at the top of the show, I accidentally said chapters 26 and 27, but we're definitely saving something like that for extended edition, I think, anyways. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think actually it was just a 25.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Chapters 17 through 25, yeah.
All right, good. Sweet. All right, good. Yeah, so anyway, I mean, what's your overall thought? Like, your impression, I guess, of this batch, of chapters?
This block, I know, because I picked the chapters as I picked them based upon time this time, as opposed to picking them basically on story, because I was like, well, this seems like it'll make sense.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest takeaway, I guess, you look at these batch of chapters. I guess the three sort of themes you can sort of run with is one, things at the tower are messed up. Mm-hmm. And I mean like messed up as in like they have no idea. Like Elida has no idea what they're doing. Like Padon Fane's killing people. They seem to have no control. I mean, even from their own standpoint, I mean, they can't find Suwan. I mean, she's doing a pretty bad job. It's time for a recall. Get her out of there.
Wow.
I mean, she's not even doing a good job by like a villain standpoint. I mean, it's like, it's like, what is even in that first meeting she had, people were just like talking all over until she decided I need to step up and say something. So you have that going on. Then the other one is, man, Rand is gonna wreck Couladin when he finally gets his hands on him.
Yes, he is.
I mean, he's gonna wreck that dude.
Right. Yep. I mean, he's not happy.
I don't know what Couladin's plan is, other than he must just think he is
cool.
He must just think he's better than Rand. He does. I mean, the only thing I can think is maybe he can try to turn people against Rand.
Yeah.
Right. And say like, look, it was Rand that was the one that did that destroyed all these villages and stuff like that. It was he who comes with the dawn, because he's like proclaiming it himself. That's like the only thing. I mean, other than that, I have no idea what his strategy is, because there's just like there's nothing he has that leads me to believe that right now that he could beat Rand. He has a smaller army. He's just marching his. I don't know. I have no idea what his plan is. But it seems idiotic at best, to say to sort of say the least. And I guess the other thing I'll take away here. I guess maybe I'll focus on sort of the girls. Yeah, it's I said this a couple times. And I think we're seeing it more and more of Elaine sort of stepping up, right? Because we said that it felt like she got her powers of the girls that went to the tower. So Nynaeve, Elaine, and Egwene, felt like she was kind of like last to sort of like to get her powers and sort of have like sort of cool moments and stuff like that. And so now it does feel like she is sort of starting to step up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like she is obviously the one in there talking to Egwene, and then I think when the wise ones tell her that she shouldn't be there, I think she handles it well. Even though what she should have said was shut your mouth. But no, so I like when we see people sort of level up, as we say, right? I guess my only complaint about this whole thing is, where's Perrin?
Is Perrin? Oh,
are we ever gonna see Perrin? I mean, come on, man.
Dude, hey, we were just in the Two Rivers. We referenced it in the Dream World. The banners are flying. Morghese is pissed about it. Gabriel doesn't care. So something's happening in the Two Rivers, and we know it's Perrin, but we're not really sure. Yeah, what is brewing? When do we get Fael and Perrin and everybody down there? Isn't that crazy to think we've had a crap ton of characters? We've explored a lot of the maidens. Like there's a new maiden mentioned all the time, Maiden of the Spear. You have you've encountered the Black Aja. You're hearing more about the Forsaken. Like there's just more and more and more characters, and we have a whole batch of them that we know very well that are sitting in the Two Rivers. That what's going on down there? We have no idea.
Yeah.
So
No idea.
yeah,
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Ez. Do we have a pigeon today or
No pigeon today? We talked just shout out at the top of the show on our one of our patrons there, and then really guys, there hasn't been much show news. There's not really been a whole lot going on, and if by the way, if there are thoughts, things that we missed, or things that need more clarity, that's always a good thing to send us a pigeon on. We cover these in large batches. I mean, we're not just doing chapter by chapter. Some podcasts have done a chapter by chapter, and I think you can get into the nitty gritty. You get the text, you pull out the words, and you actually get to kind of go through that. It's sort of what we do for Bend the Knee in our Game of Thrones, the Song of Ice and Fire podcast, and you get more in depth with that. We're kind of doing this cursory takeaway. So sometimes if things need more explanation or they're confusing or we missed a big point or something, that's a great time to send us a pigeon or send us a message and we'll read that. We'll do kind of a recap like, hey, here's some things we missed. So make sure you send those in if you have any questions or thoughts or what have you. Now, if it's something I spoiled, I'm not going to, if it was an accident or whatever, I'm not going to emphasize it more later. So just, you can let me know. That way I can keep a closer eye on things. I appreciate that anytime. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. With that, we want to thank you for answering the call. In our next episode, we will be discussing The Fires of Heaven, Part 4, chapters 26 through 35.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you would, friends, please subscribe to the podcast over on whatever app you're using. But if you want to, again, as Matt said at the top of the show, subscribing on Apple and using their podcasting app is a big deal. That we might be sending a lot of cool stuff that way. So don't forget to subscribe, like us, write that review, leave a comment, or send us a message at thehornofvalyr@gmail.com.
We will see you soon, and remember that the grave is no bar to our call.